Hey guys, it's Bina, and today I want to deep dive into a theory crafted build for 1.0 release on the Falconer. It's going to be Explosive Ballista Trapper Falconer. So basically, from what we've seen, we know that Explosive Trap is going to be a way to proc some ballistas with a 20% chance. So what we're going to try to do is grab that, bring it to 0 mana cost, make it into a mana generator, and proc lots of explosive ballistas. So I just want to show exactly like the size of the explosion that the ballistas have. So right now my skill tree is only spec'd for the explosion. It scales with dexterity. It scales the damage per dexterity, more damage per dexterity, and increased area per dexterity. So this is my old ballista character that I used to play the Big Boom Ballista video. If you want it, it will be in the link in the description below. That is the old build that I used to play. It was quite squishy. It wasn't very, it had high damage potential, but it wasn't really that great overall in terms of builds. But now with the Falconer, the passives, the crit avoidance scaling that we're going to be getting on there, it is going to be much better and possibly one of the best builds in the game at the launch. So the size of this AoE can get quite big, and the damage can get quite high as well. So we're gonna deep dive right now into some of my theory crafted builds for this. So let's go into the skills. First, we have Ballista. Ballista, the most important node is going to be Armed Construction. Armed Construction gives you more damage per dexterity and increased area per dexterity. So it's going to be very important to scale dexterity as much as possible everywhere you can in your passive and your gear. The next one, if you're using Apogee to Frozen Light, you need to go into Frigid Barrage to benefit from its plus level to minion skills. So this is going to change the tag of Ballista, which is a minion, into Cold. And so you'll also get Ignite converted to Chill. So you'll be able to chill everything and benefit from the more multiplier that this has. The Tripwire node makes your two ballistas that you spawn explode at the same time, basically putting your damage, like doubling your, not technically doubling your damage, but giving your damage like 2 times the amount in one shot, basically. Now, the next most important one is going to be Efficient Construction, minus 50 mana cost. This combined with the minus 50 mana cost on Siege Engineering makes the 44 mana cost of Ballista quite manageable. If you didn't have this, you would probably not be able to sustain your mana because of the passive node that we're going to be using in Sapping Strikes, right? So that every time, if your trap costs 0 mana, your Sapping Strike will give you 8 mana back when you hit an enemy. So it's going to be very important to get this to get the traps with 0 mana cost and then get the passive. More damage there. Shared Enhancement is giving you a damage stat ratio. So this means that your own stats will apply to your ballistas. This includes flat damage, increased damage. All of these things will apply partially to your ballistas. We go for more damage here. Base crit chance. If you don't have good gear yet, you can put more points into this one to get up to 100% crit chance. And then your crit stats are also applying to your ballistas at a 100% ratio if you have all 4 points here. This means critical strike chance and critical strike multiplier. So that pretty much covers ballista. In the traps nodes now, traps are used to generate mana and spawn ballistas with the Siege Engineering. We're trying to optimize how many traps we're actually proccing. So we're going to go into the Trap Sprinkler and the node beyond the Trapiche so that you actually have more chance to like proc an extra trap when it detonates. And then we go into these 3 points, the Cold Snap, Trappist, and Static Mines, to be able to throw 3 traps at once. So we're going to be throwing a Fire, a Lightning, and a Cold one all at the same time, which are going to have a chance to re-proc, to re-drop, and then they all have a chance to proc the Ballista. So we're optimizing in this way while keeping the mana cost to 0. If you don't have Apogee to Frozen Light and you only have Bow's Anarchy, because you need -8 throwing mana cost for this build to work, you're gonna want to have Chill here, and then you're gonna want to have also Smoke Traps. Smoke Traps will give you Dusk Shroud, which gives you in turn dodge rating and also glancing blow chance. So you should be capped in glancing blow and have a very high dodge chance. And then the rest of the points don't really matter. Well, you definitely want to max out the throwing attack speed, and then the rest of the points you can put pretty much everywhere you want. But I go for the chill stacks, and then the freeze rate per int, and then the ash compartment to get some extra fire res stacks. In shift, pretty straightforward. Every time we're shifting, we are throwing shurikens, which are spec to give us armor, right? So this is the basic setup. Armor here, the pierce chance, and then the immobilize, which helps greatly against melee enemies that just rush at you. So this is pretty much straightforward for shurikens, giving us a utility defensive buff. And then we have shift here, giving us cleanse, movement speed, gives us mana back. It gives us invulnerability while shifting, and also dodge rating per dexterity, which we are scaling very high. So very good utility for shift, very good utility for shurikens. You can also manually cast shurikens to backflip away. This gives you an extra movement ability. And then in falconry here, we go for utility as well, giving us a kill threshold of 16%. It costs a lot of mana, so you want to be able to grab as much of that mana back as possible. So the mana gain per 40 total attributes here will be pretty good. It gives us slow and frailty when we're using it, and it also gives us a fear, so it's another type of CC. And then you get an attack speed buff and a movement speed buff whenever you consume the mark. So he will have a chance to mark targets, and then when you attack the target, you gain this buff. So again, all utility. We could be using it for damage, but we are not, because it would just be a waste of time that we could be spamming more explosive traps. So that pretty much covers the skills. Now let's go into the passives. Passive, we're scaling dexterity as much as possible. So all the dexterity nodes here in the actual blade dancer tree, in the marksman tree, all the dexterity nodes we're going to be grabbing. We're going to grab less damage taken while moving, and then also haste on hit chance. So that's going to be pretty good. Sapping stripes obviously is the bread and butter of the build, which gives us mana back because our traps will cost 0. In the blade dancer, there's another movement speed passive here, so 5 points to get access to 8% movement speed. I think you should grab all the movement speed, because movement speed is the best defensive stats in the entire game. If you can react, if you need less reaction time to react to any attack, it's just way better. It makes you feel way better as well while you're playing. So focus fire for dexterity. Here in the falconer tree, we're using the base crit chance for ballista, and then increased medium damage, very good for us. Crimson shroud, damage reduction against damage over time. We don't have access to a lot of this, so this is pretty important. Dexterity here, because we're using a shield, right? We're using Cradle of the Erased, so we're gonna grab the shield synergies here, which gives us block effectiveness per dex and increased block chance with a one-handed weapon. And then here, only 4 points. Don't max this one out, because that will remove your block chance and convert it to glancing blow. But we will have access to both if we only put 4 points. So that's gonna be pretty good with Cradle of the Erased. We're grabbing the dexterity here. We're grabbing armor per dexterity, as you can see, scaling dexterity everywhere where we can. This one is really nice because of the node in Ballista, which converts your own crit into your minion crit. So that's going to give basically all of these stats are going to apply to your ballistas, and then finesse them to get crit avoidance and health gain on crit. So we're going to be able to scale our critical strike avoidance to scale critical strike multiplier for our minions, even more damage. And then health gain on crit. So because we're going to have such a big AoE, every single hit will give us 21 health. And that should really prove helpful to keep our sustain up for our health. One thing to keep in mind, your sustain will not be as good against single target as it will be against big packs of monsters. So yeah, keep this in mind, right? We're going to have less damage taken while moving, and then increased movement speed. Again, more movement speed is good. And then another movement speed here and haste on potion use. So that pretty much covers the passives. Now let's go over the gear. We're using Frozen Light and the shield, obviously, to get as tanky as possible. This was what I found to be the best option to have a lot of damage. And here I put increased medium spell damage, but like the stat that you want here is actually, as we see in the videos, there's going to be a new stat which gives you flat damage for your minions. So you're going to want to put this here. You want to grab the Cradle of the Erase for the shield. The 30% block chance per Golden Aegis is very nice. There's one passive I forgot here, because you're going to want to have Coordinated Fade to get a Silver Shroud. Silver Shroud guarantees that you dodge the next hit, and then this will pretty much guarantee that you block the next hit. So there's like 2 hits that you're guaranteed to have a lot of damage reduction against. And so because of your AoE, you might not even get hit that much. So this is going to be very strong to put together. And then this one here is used. I put 2 points in Coordinated Fade because I like having my explosive trap on W. But if you would like to have it on Q, you could actually save a point here and just have it under your, because this is based on the abilities on your bar in the order that they're in. So if you put it in the first place, you only need 1 point. So Cradle of the Erase, very strong for this. Now we have Peak of the Mountain and Foot of the Mountain, both of these are farmed in the Lightless Arbor dungeon, so you're going to be able to target farm these very, very easily, and they are very common drops, so you don't get any downsides from this one because you're not leeching, right? You're getting minion damage, and then your minion are giving you health on crit, so you're benefiting from a 290% crit chance, all attributes for the dexterity scaling, and this makes it so that it's very easy to get the 100% crit chance for your ballistas. Foot of the Mountain, lots of endurance, lots of all stats, and then you can also convert your stacks of your dodge into endurance threshold. So with the Dust Crowd giving you dodge rating, you're gonna have like very, very high dodge, and if you stop moving, all of that dodge is going to be converted into endurance threshold, so you have pretty much your entire health pool covered by your 60% damage reduction from endurance. Very, very strong boots. In terms of amulet, we have Death Rattle, 100% crit multi, very strong, a classic for minion builds to increase your damage. Woven Flesh has 100% critical strike avoidance, which in turn will give us critical strike multiplier, thanks to the finesse them in our passive. So this one is farmed in the first timeline, very easy to get. If you manage to get this with LP, use it. If not, keep using your old body armor. One very important thing on our rings is going to be to get -8 mana cost for throwing attacks. This is going to be your first priority. Second priority, throwing attack speed. Throwing attack speed is incredibly good because the more attack speed you have, the more ballistas you proc, the more dust crowds you get. So it's just insanely good to scale everything from the build. And then obviously you go for defensive stats and also crit avoidance to get even more damage by, again, getting more crit multi. The gloves, we go for throwing attack speed, dexterity, health, shred armor. So you're going to shred with your traps, so it's going to be pretty good. And then the relic, we'll go for Melvern's Writ. It has a lot of good stats for it. Dexterity, minion bow damage, minion crit chance, everything good for ballistas. And then if you can get plus levels to ballistas here, it's going to enable you to put more points into the ballista tree and then do more damage by that. So that pretty much covers the entire gear. Now, I think this build is going to be absolutely insane for 1.0. It's going to be, I think it's going to be one of the best. We shall see how it turns out. We'll see with the patch notes. But from the reveal that we've had and from the theory crafting that we've been able to do, this seems to be like a very, very strong build and easy to get into. It requires Bow's Anarchy if you don't have -8 mana cost though. So keep this in mind. You need to have -8 mana cost to benefit from sapping strikes. So as long as you have this or Exalted Rings with minus mana cost on throwing attacks, you'll be fine. Anyways, guys, I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoy. I'll have the link for the planner below with all of the different variations. There's another DPS variant that I did here. Don't take this into, like, this is only for full damage, no defense, only relying on your Coordinated Fade Silver Shroud stacks and some Smoke Bomb Silver Shroud stacks. So that is going to be pretty interesting, but I do suggest going with the actual variants that I have here for the end game and best in slot. Hope you enjoy. If you like this kind of content, please leave a like, a comment below, and subscribe to the channel, as this is going to help me greatly. And I hope to see you guys all in the next video.